The holy passages of Revelation, chapter 19, verses 7 to 9, disclose a magnificent spectacle known as the marriage of the Lamb. This significant event represents the union of Christ and his church, symbolizing spiritual oneness and the believer's blessed hope. We dig into the intricacies of this spectacular occurrence and its importance in the context of the end times. First, we examine the bride's flawless preparation for the groom. The bride is shown in Revelation chapter 19 verse 7, a collective depiction of the faithful throughout the church age, who ascend to heaven at the rapture. In anticipation of her forthcoming marriage, the woman, the church, meticulously prepares. This preparation goes beyond worldly attire, and includes dressing oneself in fine linen, bright and clean. This linen represents the righteous acts of the saints. We can see here that the church has already gone through Christ's judgment seat. This heavenly evaluation assesses Christians' works and devotion to Christ throughout their earthly stay. The bride receives the fine linen as a result of this judgment, which is defined in Revelation chapter 19 verse 8 as the righteous acts of the saints. This is how his bride has made herself ready. It is important to emphasize that the subject matter being discussed is unrelated to the concept of salvation. Since the church has already been redeemed via the sacrificial blood of the Lamb, and is destined to participate in the event known as the rapture. Let us go on to the following question: the timing of the divine union. The discourse implies that the marriage of the Lamb occurs right before Christ's magnificent second coming. Revelation chapter 19 verse 14 emphasizes this divine union by referring to the heavenly army, clad in fine linen, and riding on white horses after Christ's marriage. This image represents the beginning of the bride's position as co-reigning with Christ during the millennial kingdom. The time emphasizes the significant link between the marriage rite and Christ's approaching second coming. Let us now distinguish the wedding from the marriage supper that follows it. The contrast between the marriage of the Lamb and the ensuing marriage feast is critical to comprehending this heavenly drama. Those who are invited to the Lamb's marriage supper are blessed in Revelation chapter 19 verse 9. It says, "Blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb." This event is distinct from the marriage itself, and is said to take place during the early stages of Christ's millennial rule on earth. Who precisely are the wedding supper invited guests? It is critical to distinguish the guests at the marriage feast, or supper, from the bride, who represents the church-age believers. These are Old Testament saints, and the tribulation saints resurrected and alive after the second coming. Old Testament saints are good people who lived before Christ, yet believed in and trusted God. They include Abraham, Moses, David, Elijah, and many more Old Testament personalities, who displayed faith and obedience to God. These people are known as saints, because of their faith and connection with God. Old Testament saints are said to be among the guests at the Lamb's marriage supper, indicating their involvement in the magnificent celebration of Christ's final victory. Also invited are the tribulation saints. The tribulation saints are Christians who come to trust in Christ during the Great Tribulation. This is a time of tremendous suffering and persecution, as stated in the book of Revelation. These people confront great hardships and are often martyred for their steadfast faith in Christ. Despite the difficulties they face in the tribulation, they stay devoted, and are rewarded for their perseverance. Tribulation saints are also regarded guests at the Lamb's marriage supper, emphasizing their participation in this wonderful feast. It's vital to notice that these visitors all have one thing in common: their restoration through trust in Christ. While they may come from diverse historical backgrounds and experiences, their united trust in Jesus Christ as Lord and connects them in the celestial celebration of the Lamb's marriage feast. Overall, the presence of these guests emphasizes the inclusiveness and majesty of this heavenly event, when Christians of all ages and backgrounds engage in the joyful celebration of Christ's final victory and the marriage of the Lamb to his wife, the Church. These people, both mortal and resurrected, will take part in earth's jubilant feast and celebration. In contrast, the bride, having come into unity with the Lamb, will share in Christ's heavenly dominion and rule. Several New Testament texts support the idea that the celebration of the Lamb's marriage feast will take place during the millennial rule. The deep words of Christ in Matthew chapter 8 verse 11, the insights presented in Luke chapter 13 verse 28-29, and the relevance of Luke chapter 22 verse 16-18, 29-30 are among these passages. In Luke chapter 22, Jesus declares that he would not partake of the Lord's Supper until his kingdom is established. This confirms the concept that the marriage feast will take place during his rule on earth. Finally, the marriage of the Lamb presentation unravels the heavenly tapestry of this celestial marriage. It demonstrates the bride's constant preparation, the marriage's perfect timing, and the contrast between the marriage of the Lamb and the celebratory marriage feast. Today we ask, do you want to be part of the marriage to the Lamb or just invited to the marriage supper? It's simple. Confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, and you will be saved. By this action you will not be a guest but part of the bride and participate in the marriage of the Lamb. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe to Grace to Prophecy Network.